The hamstrings are an extremely common injury site across athletes in all sports, particularly those that involve running. From experience, having worked with hundreds of people in the past, most people do not train hamstrings anywhere near enough. Now, I know leg training is becoming more and more common these days, but the hamstrings are often undertrained. Not only do people lack performance and strength in this area, but you only have to take one look at people's legs, and aesthetically, most people are underdeveloped in this area. Now, bilateral training is extremely important, as this is the area where the most force can be produced into the ground. But we can't ignore unilateral training or single leg training, as this is where we can transfer that bilateral strength into unilateral strength, which is more specific to sports which involve movements like running and cycling and kicking actions. Single leg training is also extremely important, as the research has shown that it is far more likely to help prevent the risk of injury in comparison to bilateral training alone. So this exercise in particular is a slight regression of the more commonly known single leg Romanian deadlift. Personally, I find that the single leg Romanian deadlift, whilst it's a great exercise, it's slightly too technical for clients, especially early on in the training program. So while this exercise is extremely demanding physically, it's slightly easier technically, and therefore I find most clients and athletes that I work with tend to get more benefit, more bang for their buck out of this exercise as part of their strength training and injury prevention program.
To set up for this exercise, you initially want to stand with your feet roughly hip width apart. Slowly place all of your weight onto one leg, and then hinge at the hips as though you're closing the door with your bottom. Stop once you achieve a significant stretch in both hamstrings, and from here, stand by squeezing your glutes and forcing your weight through one foot. It's important that you do this extremely slowly and put all of the emphasis through the hamstrings and glutes of the leg that is in contact with the ground. Ensure that when you shift your weight from both legs onto the working leg, you do this extremely slowly. It's very common for people to do this movement far too quickly. Once you've mastered this movement, you can then start to load the exercise. For beginners, I recommend that you load on the opposite side by using a dumbbell. So if you're standing on your left leg, hold a dumbbell in the right. If you want to progress this exercise further, you can load yourself by now using a barbell. Make sure that you keep the bar parallel with the ground and start loading the weight as heavy as you can, whilst paying attention to how slowly you transfer your weight from one leg to the other. It's very important that you hinge very slowly and stop as soon as you feel a stretch in the hamstring in order to avoid your back from flexing or rounding.